He now has a 4.15 ERA. You know, I've heard from a lot of folks that say, man, I get nervous every time Holland comes in there. That's typically most closers. I don't know if they got nervous when you came in there.
They did.
Yeah, that's just the role mostly. You want it wrapped up in a nice bow. 3 up, 3 down, 3 strikeouts. That usually doesn't happen. His numbers over the last month, and for the bullpen for that matter, over the last few weeks haven't been great. Couple big misses in Toronto, one in Detroit. But I want to get back to what you said about Greg Holland, because, you know, you had some concerns earlier in the year, and now you've seen the velocity come back up, and you said over the weekend that was the best game that you had seen him pitch all year.
I really did. I felt like the 3 outs he got, he was in complete command. His stuff was very crisp. His location was really good, especially with his fastball, because that's one of the things that I saw earlier in the year. He didn't really have the real good fastball command, and maybe in part because he didn't have his real good fastball velocity. As a result, you kind of nibble a little bit more, and you're not on the attack mode. Maybe saw a little bit of that again tonight.
Was the looming presence, perhaps, of Trout and Pujols, could that have been in the back of his mind? I mean, he's not thinking about that as he's facing the 7, 8, and 9 hitters, but suddenly DeJesus gets a hit, and then Perez, the 8 hitter who, you know, doesn't play a whole lot or doesn't hit a whole lot, gets a walk, and now suddenly there's a double, and now you're looking at the top of that lineup, a little bit of a, what would you say, maybe a fluke hit from Giavotella, and suddenly you're staring at all that.
Well, sometimes that can happen. You kind of look a little bit ahead, and you have a little cushion to work with. Now, if you think back to Saturday when he struck out the side, he had the 2, 3, 4 hitters in the White Sox lineup in a 1-run game, and I remember telling you, I bet he's going to be really good because there was no margin for error. So maybe the 2-run cushion plus the fact that he had the bottom part of the order tonight maybe allowed him to get his guard down just a little bit, but you just can't do that. I mean, and you learn from it as you go.
Last thought before we get to our player of the game. Is there concern as far as you have on the bullpen at this point? 2 misses after 111 straight.
Well, it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's going to happen at some point during the season. We talk about baseball having these contagious spells during the course of the year, and unfortunately right now the bullpen is having that contagious streak. They'll get through it. They'll be fine. As long as everybody's healthy, I have no concerns at all.